remind yourself why you're recovering and that you can eat. If I don't recover, I will have no future. Right now, it is my life mission to recover. Well, I'm really glad I pushed through that. If you want your body working, no matter how you look, it's inevitable to gain weight in recovery. My head screams at me. Anorexia is so much more than like just eat more. I wish people would just stop commenting on your weight. Anorexia is a mental illness that can have physical side effects. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jess Tatham and this channel is dedicated to my recovery journey from anorexia eating disorder, and I show you how I'm recovering and what I get up to in my daily life. So if you want to follow along with my journey, make sure you hit that subscribe button and like this video as well. And also you can follow me at Jess Tatham on Instagram to stay up to date a bit more with my daily life and see what I get up to. I also post a lot of streams of consciousness in my captions that gives you a bit more of an insight into my recovery journey. So today's video, as you can probably already tell from the title, is going to be a recovery Q&A. I was originally planning on tacking a Q&A onto a recovery update video, but I got a fair few questions and I thought it might be better to have it in its own video so I can go into more depth about everything. So it's going to be a really chatty video, so make sure you grab yourself a snack and a drink and cozy up. And yeah, I've got my cup of tea here, so I'm ready to spill the tea on recovery. Yeah, so let's get started. Okay, so I have written out all the questions on my phone here. I asked via my Instagram stories, so if you haven't followed me there yet, it's at Jess Tatham. And if you like these Q&A videos, I might be doing some more, so make sure you follow there so you can ask me questions or see my new videos or whatever. So I've written them all down in a Google Doc, and then I also wrote like my thoughts on them because I wanted to make sure that I got everything out that I want to say. So if I'm looking down at my phone, that's why, because I'm reading my responses. So I haven't ordered the questions in any way. I've just got them listed out. So let's get started. So question number one is, how do you cope with food consumption when out? So this is something that I do definitely find still challenging, because in the past, when I was like before my diagnosis, eating out was something that I would prep for. So what I mean by that is I would like not eat during the day. I would like save up the calories, and I would also research the menu. So I would be really informed as to what I could get, and I'd plan that spiel in my head, like, can I get this with this on the side without that? So eating out now is much more of a spontaneous thing, and it's something that the people in my life are in control of. So if I go out with friends or family, I am now just like, you choose what you want and I'll just go along with it. So I'm never prepared for it, and that's really stressful. So I also find it challenging because it's also a big thing for comparison. So it's like, what are they eating? What are they ordering? Have I ordered the more like the high calorie option? Is that really greedy of me? They've stopped eating. They've said they're full. That means I should be full. Why am I not full yet? I'm overeating. This is so embarrassing. Everybody's looking at me. Everybody's thinking. So it's still those thoughts in my head. But I just try to focus in on how I'm feeling in the moment and like the point of me eating this food. So for someone else who goes out, it's a nice experience to go out and eat food at a restaurant. And for me, it should be the same. But also for me, it is still a part of my recovery journey. You know, I've still got to push myself when I eat those foods. I've still got to get used to ordering a burger, a pizza, a pasta dish, a dessert. You know, everybody else at the table, that's what they always do. So they don't have to challenge themselves every time they go out. So it's just sort of reminding yourself that you're on a different path than them, so you shouldn't be comparing yourself to them. And also, everybody has different hunger levels, and that's what I try to remind myself of. Like, I am someone recovering from an eating disorder. My body is trying to heal itself, and I need to choose the higher calorie foods. So if that means that everybody else at the table is ordering a salad because they don't feel like a big meal, that doesn't mean that I shouldn't order the burger or whatever, because that's what I really want. I hope that makes sense. It's very overwhelming, but also like another thing that Meg's recovery often talks about is different paths, different bodies. I'm pretty sure that's what she says. So like, as I was saying, hunger levels, what others are eating. Everybody wants different things when you go out. So yes, it's definitely challenging, but it's just something that you've just got to keep going through those, like, why am I doing this reminders of, and sort of really tune into the menu as well. Like, I sit down, I'm like, okay, so what do I want? And I really try to practice, like, I look at the menu, read through, and if something sparks my interest, that's what I choose. And I try my best to stick with that approach, because otherwise, generally the thing that sticks out to me is the thing that the eating disorder doesn't want. And so, like, say for example, I pick up a menu and there's a burger on there and I'm like, oh, that sounds really good. And the eating disorder's like, no, that's too many calories. Look at the salad section. And I look at the salad section, I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'll get this one. But then I'm still thinking of the burger. So I'm trying my best to sort of be like, this is what you do. You go out and you pick what you want to try. So it's just sort of, I guess, eating intuitively in that sense and still pushing yourself. So yeah, consumption when eating out is challenging, but it's definitely gotten better for me, but it's just something that you can only do when you practice it. You just have to eat out heaps. So, okay, number 2 is, what is one thing you wish people knew about anorexia? So I couldn't pick one thing because I myself have learned so much about anorexia through this diagnosis, and the people around me have as well. And I think it is, like with a lot of mental illness, is something that people just stigmatize, and there's actually not much education around. So probably my biggest thing is that anorexia is a mental illness that can have physical side effects. That means that the stereotypical body type for anorexia is not the only diagnostic criteria that is applied to people who have anorexia. I mean, I've had people say to me in my recovery journey, oh, but you're like not even that skinny, like how do you have anorexia? And it's like, it's not the point. Like, people are always going to be thinner than you or bigger than you, but that doesn't negate your mental illness, like your diagnosis with anorexia or whatever it is. So it's probably my biggest thing, like, because it is a mental illness that is known for its physical side effects. That's how people just like diagnose it in their heads. So, and that was definitely something I thought as well before being diagnosed with anorexia. I thought that anorexia was a physical illness, not a mental illness. So that's something that I think is really important to sort of put out there, is that it's happening up here. And I do get side effects that you can physically see, like, yes, I dropped a lot of weight. Yes, you know, my hair's falling out and all this stuff. But not everybody gets that. But that doesn't mean that they don't have anorexia. So that's something that I wish everybody knew. Also with anorexia is like commenting on people's weight. Just generally, just don't do it. But especially when you know they have anorexia, it's like not appropriate. Even if they've gained weight, it's very triggering either way, because there's an eating disorder side of you that hates to hear that you've gained weight. But then there's a logical side of you that feels sad when you lose more weight because you know it's unhealthy. So I wish people would just stop commenting on your weight. Anorexia is so much more than like just eat more. Like the amount of times that people are just like, just eat. Like, how can you not eat? Like, don't you get hungry? No, like literally no. Like, I was not hungry for a very long time. And even now still, I'm only just getting the slightest hunger cues back. So no, just eat is not a fix for anorexia, because if I could just eat, I wouldn't be here. The mental torment that comes with anorexia, and this is why it's a mental illness. Like, it is like your head, like my head screams at me when I eat something, or I'm freaking out, or I'm trying to count calories. It's such a layered illness that triggers a lot of other things like anxiety, depression, social stress, comparison, insecurity, overwhelm. They're all things that I've suffered from and more. So again, it's just such a layered illness that a lot of people just don't really know much about. Weight means nothing for anorexia sufferers and diagnosis. That is probably the biggest thing. I know I sort of went in a big circle then, but anorexia and a lot of mental illness people just don't know stuff about. So I sort of had to go on a bit of like a mini rant there. So question number 3 is, how do you balance all frequent appointments with work, social life, other self-care? It's very hard. Just because also appointments are exhausting, especially like psychologist appointments. When I first started my recovery, I was doing telehealth for like my psychologist appointments. And at the time I was working remotely as a PR consultant, and I would like leave work for an hour, have my appointment and come back. And it just was a really bad thing that I was doing, because the appointments are exhausting and you really have to think and go in to your head and everything. So it really does impact the rest of your day. So I'll talk about like work, social life, and other self-care separately of how like I balance it all. So work is only something I've just started to go back. Obviously, in a sense, I was lucky that this diagnosis came during COVID because I did have a lot of time just to be healing and not have to stress about a lot of other things with general life. But I'm very lucky to have a job who are extremely supportive and understanding of my situation. I have spoken openly to them, and most people I work with are aware of my situation. So I have been able to, obviously with a medical certificate, like with supporting evidence from my doctors, have like reduced hours. I've reduced my responsibilities at work. I have more reliance on my parents now with work, like to drop me and pick me up, and I have unavailability on days of recurring appointments, and that's how I balance sort of the exhaustion from those appointments. I just don't work the days that I have them, and obviously a lot of rest. So this is sort of comes with reduced hours. So when I do work, I don't work like a bunch Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like I work like on a Friday, for example, and then I have like a few days off or a while off before I go back, because literally one day of work, I need like 4 days to recover because it really exhausts me still. Socializing is challenging for a lot of reasons, because I know people that I'm socializing with are aware of what I'm going through, and obviously I want them to be aware. I do put this information out there, but sometimes it is a bit of that like walking on eggshells. Like I've definitely had experiences where people know what you're going through, and sometimes that can make situations a bit awkward, especially when food is involved. But also sometimes I find it hard. One of the really common side effects of anorexia and recovery as well, because you're just so exhausted. But when you have sort of like a starved brain, it's really hard to engage in conversation and engage in social moments, because your brain literally just can't keep up, and also you're thinking about calories and food and stressing about stuff like that. So I sometimes find it hard when I'm socializing to engage, and then sometimes I come off like, I guess, rude and distant and not caring, and that's not the case at all. It makes me actually really upset that that is the person that I've sort of become. So self-care is challenging. I need to do more of it. I'm really bad with self-care, and that comes a lot with like, I feel really guilty and regretful when I do it, and that's just my personality and something that I'm working on with my team at the moment. So, but I'd say like I do yoga and everything, and I try to squeeze in a bit of mindfulness when I can, but honestly, yeah, it's like for me, it's not like I don't self-care enough, and I should, and like I honestly would recommend it, because in recovery, like your body is like going crazy. Like it is like trying to heal, trying to do its best. So I definitely think making time to do some yoga, to do some painting, to do some reading is really important. And I do try to do that, but sometimes it is challenging because your brain just won't turn off, and you're constantly thinking about those calories and the recovery and what appointment you've got next. And I definitely don't think I have the perfect balance yet of appointments and like my life, because recovery sort of is my life at the moment. So there's not really much else going on, but practice makes perfect. And I think really like once you start making gains in recovery, you do normalize it. I'm just trying to find that normal still. So next question is, how do you handle the fact that your body changes from day to day? Now, in my head, in my like the body dysmorphia, it changes day to day, but like your body doesn't actually change day to day, like physically, except for like obviously bloating and stuff like that. But one thing that my psychologist told me to do, and I've really tried to implement in my life, is stop body checking. So body checking is basically, you walk past a mirror and you're like, oh, my arm looks big. Oh, like, oh, my belly. Oh, I need to, oh God, my legs look big in these. Oh, like it's stopping that. And if you do catch yourself in the mirror, be like, say something positive, or just try to avoid mirrors. Like, I'm not looking at myself today, which is really hard to do, especially when you are in the habit of body checking. But that is something that I try not to do, because otherwise it's just comparing my body day to day. But when I do have those days where I just feel like I've gained a lot of weight, or I am just feeling really down, like bad body image, I try to remind myself that like my body is trying to heal. Like my body, I've done a lot of harm to my body and it is trying to heal. Like I don't really have a right to be so mean to it. And I try to tell my ED, like, how dare you talk to me like this? Like my body, I have a working body, which I'm so lucky for. Like I almost didn't, like I did so much harm to myself. I've got 2 legs, 2 arms, and I'm grateful for that I can do stuff with that. So how dare, you know, ED, like how dare you talk to me like that? But also like bloating is normal, and feeling like you have gained a lot of weight suddenly is normal, especially in eating disorder and disordered eating. I also don't weigh myself. I only let my doctor do that once a week when I go in for my checkup. And that is something that like I was obsessed with weighing myself early on. So yeah, it's just something I don't do because again, like your body does fluctuate. Like it depends what you ate for dinner, how much water you like have drunk. If you need to pee or poo, like it literally depends on that. It's what you're wearing. Like if you're wearing a belt one day and not a belt the next day, then you're going to weigh different. So there's literally no point. And also scales are all different. Like I know when I was still weighing myself, I'd weigh myself and go to my doctor's the same day and it would be different. So there's no point because the numbers are just useless. And also literally is so bad for your mindset. Like if I weigh myself and see a number I don't like, it's still so hard to be like, it doesn't matter. So just don't do it. And I remind myself day to day that I won't gain weight, like gain 10 kilos overnight. It's just my ED brain tricking me to thinking that so I can step back into my old behaviors. Also, I remind myself that if I do listen to that voice and sit back in my old behaviors, then it's only like short-term bliss for me because then my logical side kicks in and I feel really guilty for skipping my meals or compensating or something just because I think my body has changed. Also, you've got to admit that like body changes, not day-to-day changes, but overall body changes are inevitable in recovery. And you've just got to admit that to yourself. And I say that coming from the angle that I have not yet admitted that to myself. Like it's really hard to, especially when the eating disorder is still so present in your mind. So it's really vital to just be like, if your body does change, like if you do gain weight or, you know, something looks different, something fits different, I am recovering. Like this is just part of it. Like it's inevitable to gain weight in recovery. Trust me, I've tried, my ED's tried to tell me that I can recover without gaining weight. Trust me, it's in there telling me that. But like my logical side knows that's not possible. Like you've got to gain weight, you've got to heal, you know, your body is starved, your organs, your muscles, like your brain, heart, lung, everything, it needs to get some gain on you so it can heal. So it's really inevitable. But it is hard and you've got to just focus on the fact that if your body does change and you gain a little bit, it's only going to help your body functions. Like it's not, your appearance is just your appearance. Like you want your body working no matter how you look. What do you do when you feel overwhelmed or anxious about the future? It's a constant feeling, one I struggle with. Personally, being a perfectionist and being a massive type A personality, I always have plans, and especially this year, I had a lot of potentially really exciting plans coming my way. Being first year out of uni, I'm 20, I, had a good job, I was able, obviously COVID impacted a lot of those, but also this diagnosis has impacted a lot of those and basically none of them are happening now. So yeah, it's just been flushed down the drain there. It's hard to feel very optimistic about the future, obviously struggling with my mental health with anxiety and depression as well. It makes me feel very dubious about the future and unmotivated. There's days where I feel like it'll be always like this, none of my dreams will come true, I won't achieve anything, that's just the depressed brain trying to tell you that there's no hope. But I'm just going to remind myself that that is not the case. To combat this, I try to imagine my life in a year, 5 years, 10 years as a recovered person. And this is something that I use a lot, this visualization. I have used a lot in recovery. So I'm always like, okay, well, this time next year, I will be XYZ. This time in 5 years, XYZ. And I imagine myself looking back at this time and being like, wow, I'm really glad I pushed through that. I can't believe I used to treat myself like that. I'm really glad I can now go out last minute for drinks with friends, go out and get ice cream, have pancakes for breakfast, a burger for lunch, and not have a meltdown about it. I'm glad I can enjoy exercising again. You know, like it's stuff like that where I just tried to, imagine the future, looking back on me now and being like, good job. And that's quite empowering. I also like to think about the fact that right now, it is my life mission to recover. I can sit here and feel anxious and overwhelmed about the future, and trust me, I do, like literally every day. I literally panic about the future. But I have to remind myself right now, my job is to recover, because if I don't recover, I will have no future. And that is the bottom line of eating disorder recovery and everything. Like if I just go, nah, I don't want to do this anymore, then like, the future's gonna like, obviously I'm going to feel really overwhelmed and anxious about the future because I'm probably not going to have one if that's the case. So it's just trying to be like, live in the moment, which I always struggle to do because I'm such a planner. Do just try to live in the moment and be like, okay, this is my job right now. Like if this was a job, this is my to-do list, is to eat 6 times today. By next week is to gain X amount. My meetings this week are my doctor's appointment, my dietitian appointment, my psychologist appointment, and XYZ. That's another way to look at it, to sort of not focus on the future, which I know is very hard to do, but it is something that you should probably try to do. The next question is, what is your biggest fear food and have you tried it since you started recovery? I have lots of fear foods and I literally don't know what my main fear food is, but probably McDonald's for me is a big one, and a big one that still scares me. Mostly any fast food drive-through, but McDonald's is pretty much the only one that in my past healthy life I would have eaten anyway. I did, in early recovery, I did have a McDonald's hash brown and that really wigged me out. And I did film that actually. But actually going to McDonald's and getting something else is still something that literally gives me anxiety right now. It makes me really, really scared because obviously the problem with eating disorders is that I just know so many calories of food, so I know what's in McDonald's, so it's really hard for me to move past that. But also, so I haven't ventured to try that yet, but I have faced a lot of fear foods, so peanut butter, bananas, packet cookies, baked goods, sugary and previously thought unhealthy foods, sausages, sushi. I've eaten all those a fair bit in recovery and they still scare me, but I tried to normalize them into my normal eating habits. So I have faced a lot of those as well, so that has been a success. And also, eat your fear foods because they're all my fear foods have been delicious. So highly rate that. Favorite quote, mantra during recovery. I have 2. One is from I'm Powering on Instagram. I will link her below. She is a fantastic recovery account to follow. And she once said, a challenge compensated is a challenge negated. So basically, if you challenge yourself in recovery and then the next meal you skip or you have a lower calorie option to make up for it, that is pointless because you just made up for a challenge, and that's not the point of doing challenges. And I try to remind myself every time I do get compensation thoughts on that. And then also one that I sort of, a mantra I've given myself is recovery won't work unless you do. And I literally tell myself that every single day, every single ED thought I get, I imagine the future and say that quote to myself. Recovery won't work unless you do. Recovery won't work unless you do. Recovery won't work unless you do. And just remind myself that I'm the only one that's steering this boat. I've got the support systems, but if I don't put my foot on the accelerator, then I won't go anywhere. So that's a really important one. Ways to motivate yourself when you don't feel hungry. This is another tough one. I've got a list of things here, so I'm going to read them straight off. Think of the purpose of your recovery. Why have you chosen to recover? Why are you recovering? Thinking into the future and thinking, if I don't eat this now, when will I recover? And that's another one that links back to recovery won't work unless you do. So if you skip this meal now, okay, you can do that, but when will recovery start then? Thinking about telling my doctors about skipping this meal and trying to give reasons as to why that choice isn't disordered. So if I go to skip a snack, I'm like, if my doctor walked in right now and was like, okay, skip a snack, why? What reason would I be able to give that is not a disordered one? And to be honest, generally it is always a disordered one. So eat your snack, eat your meal. So my final one for that one is I often think why am I not wanting to eat this? So, I mean, obviously I'm not hungry, but because I am on a meal plan, I have set times that I have to eat. So it's breakfast snack, lunch snack, dinner snack. So let's say it rolls around to 3:30 and that's my afternoon snack time and I'm trying to put it off. I'm like, why am I putting this off? Other than not being hungry, you know what I mean? Like, that is a disordered choice. So I just try to recognize that anytime I try to put a snack off, that is a disordered choice and I've just got to go eat it. And honestly, sometimes I literally have to race into the kitchen, grab something really quick and just eat it and not think about it. And that's the only way I can do it. But just, it's really important to stay in touch with recovery, and it's really hard. And when I sort of had my like mini relapse a couple weeks ago, where I started skipping again and compensating again, that was the biggest thing that happened to me, is I just lost touch with my reasons for recovery and was just like, I can do this with minimal food. Like, I feel fine, so I am fine. And yeah, so best way, if you're not hungry and you know you need to eat, just be like, why am I doing this? I want to be full of energy. I want to live. I want to live guilt-free when it comes to food. I want to eat what I want and enjoy life. I don't want to be kept up at night or woken up in the night by thoughts of food and feel guilty when I eat something. Remind yourself why you're recovering and that you can eat. You can eat and just eat. Like, honestly, like, you're not hungry, just eat. It's fine. Honestly, if you're putting yourself off eating right now, pause this video and go and eat. I'm begging you to go have something to eat. Okay, and the final question is, what are your goals for this time next year? So I definitely want to be recovered. I am not saying that I won't have any ED thoughts or anything anymore, because I really do think that is going to take a lot longer than a year for me to get rid of. But I do want to be back to health when it comes to my energy and my drive and my motivation and everything like that. And I think that's attainable as long as I really commit to recovery and keep on going. I still really want to be doing YouTube and creating content, whatever that looks like in a year's time. I want this channel to grow with me along my recovery journey and as my life changes. If possible, re-COVID, I want to travel a bit and experience life as a young person, free of an eating disorder, free of mental illness. So obviously that means also healing a lot of my anxiety and depression and stress issues as well. I want to feel like my true self again. So I think that sort of encompasses everything that I've just said. I want to get back to Jessica pre-ED, pre-mental health issues, and just feel fully happy again and engaged in my life and control of my life. And I just want to, reconnect with myself, me, myself, and I. I want to get to know me, myself, and I again, and who I truly am without the little devil voice in my head. And I think I want to be working in social media, content creation, writing field in some way. So whether that be through YouTube and through my personal social media, or whether that be an agency job. So yeah, a lot of aims for 1 year, but I think they're all attainable. They all sort of link back into me reconnecting with myself and finding myself through my recovery journey. So I think that is very attainable. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. Thank you to everybody who asked questions on my Instagram. I hope if you're watching this, you found it helpful or interesting. Always ask questions in comments or message me on Instagram or comment on my Instagram photos some questions you have. And I'll probably do another Q&A later down the line. So follow me at Just Tatham to see when I do that, so you can ask questions through my Instagram stories as well. As always, you watching this and your support and love means so much to me. It really keeps me going on my recovery journey, and I'm very grateful to have each and every one of you watching this, subscribing, liking, commenting. So thank you again. I hope you have a great day. Don't forget to eat something. Don't forget to have a nice drink. Be kind to yourself and have a really nice day. Bye guys, see you in the next video.